next session quickly, and that will be on combating anti-money laundering and terrorism financing with eNaira. And that will be by Olusegun Odeku, Associate Director of Forensic Services at KPMG Nigeria. Olusegun, if you're online and you can hear me, just say hello.
Hello, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can hear you. So you have 10 minutes. Your time starts now. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Just to confirm that you can see my screen.
So we can see your screen.
Okay. So I would, for the next 10 minutes, I'll be speaking about, how we can combat anti-money laundering and terrorism financing with the eNaira. Just to quickly go back to the definition of money laundering, which is really trying to disguise the proceeds of crime and concealing the source of the funds. And terrorism financing is financial support in any form of terrorism, or those who encourage, plan, or engage in terrorism. And then why are these issues important? United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime estimates that globally, 5% of the GDP is laundered, and the impact of that is what we see every day, damage to our financial systems and institutions. When the government pass policies, these policies are not as effective as they expect them to be, because the system is not really showing a true and fair picture. There's damage to political and democratic institutions, which is something that most of us can identify with. When funds which serve as a powerful source of resource are in the wrong hands, those individuals can leverage those funds to cause some form of damage into the political systems. There's a negative impact on social economic development, as well as there's the reputation that is tied to a country when that country is being associated with money laundering issues. And just to quickly touch on the three major levels of money laundering, stages rather. There's the placement, which is putting the money in the financial system. Layering, which is moving it through several accounts, through transactions to confuse people and disguise the trail of the funds, and integration, which is bringing it back. And I think one of the reasons why I've touched on these three stages is because for layering, which we'll talk about in a bit, is where eNaira really comes into play. So how do we see what do we see, and how do we view the eNaira as helping to combat money laundering? The eNaira is still in the early stages of adoption, like we just heard, but there are a number of possibilities and potentials that we see that can help the country as a whole better fight money laundering. As it is, the CBN has exclusive rights to mint, issue, distribute, redeem, and destroy the eNaira. So that gives some comfort around the fact that there's a single source of origin for the eNaira. It's built on a blockchain open ledger technology. So for every, it's unlike the paper notes that can be that can be reprinted or falsified. The eNaira, it's unique. Every eNaira that is minted is unique and is different. And I think that therein lies the key future that can help Nigeria to use eNaira to combat money laundering. Because of that unique cryptographic signature that each eNaira has, we're able to trace that money from the source to the destination. So irrespective of how much you try to layer these funds, if these funds are illegitimate, once they are identified as illegitimate at the source of entry, it's easy to follow the trail of the funds using those unique digital signatures on each eNaira to their destination, and it will help regulators unravel the flow of funds of money laundering. It's also going to aid in the detection of association between accounts because of those unique signatures. What you will see is that as people begin to transact, typically people will launder funds are usually in a group, and you see as these transactions happen using data analytics and some of the new investigative approaches out there, one can then begin to tie accounts to different groups and associations, especially around politically exposed persons, which is a major issue for most of the banks in Nigeria right now. Identifying who the associates of politically exposed persons is it's one issue that banks have not really been able to overcome. With the eNaira, that should be much more straightforward because you then are able to establish that there is some form of connection between these two sets of accounts due to the flow of funds. Right now, what do we think? How do we think the regulators can further, strengthen the eNaira to be able to combat money laundering? One is we believe that it can be used in public sector procurement. This would, if they enforce the use of it in the public sector procurement, this would also drive adoption as well as help to identify, actual use of funds that have been paid to contractors for certain projects, which we know is a major issue currently. One is the other way we see is, which will take some time, is harmonizing the existing digital balances in banks with the eNaira. I think we need to get to a point where the options you have are maybe the paper note or just the eNaira for us to be able to properly identify, how funds are flowing in the system. It can also be used for social programs. Right now, there are a lot of issues around, the ultimate beneficiaries of intended beneficiaries of social programs getting the funds that they have been designated to them, somewhere in the middle. People can step in and misuse these funds, but with eNaira, there can be that accountability of ensuring that those funds get to the intended recipients through the digital signatures that are on it. And again, I think the last thing is just to strengthen collaborations with other jurisdictions that have existing eNaira. We all know that money laundering is always successful when it moves across borders. And for you to be able to tackle it properly, you need to ensure that if it leaves Nigeria, you're still able to collaborate with regulators outside of the country to track where these funds are going to. What are some of the considerations for banks? Right now, banks use transaction monitoring rules, most of which is based on rule-based transaction monitoring rules. As we have the eNaira, they may need to update some of those transaction monitoring typologies to account for the use of eNaira. They need to also train staff on blockchain investigations, and also the regulators may look at integrating the eNaira into the existing identification database in the country to make it more robust. What are some of the factors that we see that can limit the use of eNaira to combat money laundering? One is that adoption is still quite low, like we just heard. It will take some time, and the CBN may need to look at ways to stimulate the public adopting the eNaira right now. Another one is that eNaira is intended to help with financial inclusion, but with the existing challenges that we have with financial inclusion in Nigeria, which is positive correlation with internet penetration, as well as the existing digital databases, those challenges are still there, and it's difficult to see how the eNaira would be able to summon these challenges or go a different path from the existing digital challenges. So I guess the regulators have to come up with a unique way to kind of overcome some of these challenges and get more people to use the eNaira. And then I think the last, even I would say the most important one is cybersecurity threats. With everything digital, there's always the risk that it will be abused by bad actors out there. And so that risk exists. We already right now with the low rate of when you look at the quantum of cyber frauds around due to poor education, that's something that would flow into, we believe will flow into the eNaira. This is also a digital platform. So that has to be noted, that risk has to be managed critically so that people don't lose value for the funds that they've worked at. I think that's a quick summary of my presentation, and we'll take any questions if there are.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Please, a round of applause for Oluwaseun. Do you have any question here? I can take one question. Do we have any questions? All right, Oluwaseun, thank you for your time this morning. It's so clear that what you shared, everyone understood it perfectly, but it's interesting the days ahead, even for banks, and how they adopt and how they get more people to jump on the eNaira. Okay, let me quickly call on the next panel session. It's a fireside chat, so pick a on. And that's the making of more unicorns in Nigeria. The moderator for this session is Kemi Agbaje, Legal Counsel, FSDH. Round of applause for her as she comes forward. All right. You want to start? Okay, and Ini Akpan, CEO of OPay. Ini, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
All right, awesome, awesome.
Thank you.
Kemi, over to you. Welcome, Ini. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much to the Nigerian FinTech Association and the Singapore FinTech Festival for organizing this wonderful event. It's a pleasure to be sitting here with, well, virtually, but with Mr. Ini Akpan, who is the country manager and managing director of OPay. So I'll just do a brief introduction. So yes, as Chukwuemeka said, my name is Kemi Agbaje. I work at FSDH Holding Company, which is a non-operating holding company that offers progressive services to clients. So now I'll dive right into why we're here today, which is to talk about the making of more unicorns in Nigeria. So there's been a lot of buzz about unicorns. People are very interested to hear more. And I think of note is the fact that 6 out of 7 unicorns across the continent of Africa actually originated or emerged from Nigeria. So with that, I'd like to ask Mr. Akpan, how does somebody go from being a computer science graduate to running a unicorn? Can you please tell us a bit about your journey?
All right. Well, thank you, Kemi, for that question. We need to understand that it's a journey. That's one thing that we need to understand. It's a journey. You don't just get there overnight. And from my experience, there are lots of rudimentary things that you learn in school. Fortunately, when you are in university, they teach you the basic rudiments of and the technical principles on how to get there. But you need to add some business acumen to that to make it possible. And some of the critical things that you learn that you need to add, that you learn in the process, is that there are several routes, to get in there. There are several paths to follow. I mean, so for instance, if you want to achieve scale, there are several ways to get there. But it's important to figure out what the right path is and figure it out very quickly. And once you are able to figure that out, which is part of the lessons that you learn in the process, then you need to double down on it pretty quickly. And that's one of the things. And then it's also very important that you also are very agile, because in spite of the fact that, the principles, the quicker you respond to the needs of the market, the better for you. So agility is very, very critical. And then also it's important that you take full stock of exactly what you want to do, what the problem is, and find a solution to that particular problem. So it's a path, it's a journey. It's something that doesn't happen overnight. They teach you in school systems analysis, feasibility studies that are critical to this process, systems design, but you learn on the job, you learn through various channels, and then through coaching. So it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight.
Okay, Mr. Akpan, thank you very much for that answer. I noticed that you had mentioned agility. So I guess that's one of the things that has helped you lead OPay to being a unicorn. And I guess now that we're talking about unicorns, there's a lot of talk about them beyond the hefty valuations. What value or what importance do you feel they hold for the Nigerian tech ecosystem apart from these valuations?
I think clearly there are 3 things that it holds. I mean, it clearly shows the humongous opportunity that is in Nigeria today when you look at the tech ecosystem. And now, obviously, Nigeria is on the map, which also clearly shows the world that there's a talent pool of people. There's a talent pool in Nigeria of people who are innovative, who are creative, who are able to, make stuff, get stuff done. And then lastly, it also clearly shows that there's a huge impact that the tech ecosystem can make in Nigeria economically, and then also even in job creation. So beyond the valuation itself, it speaks volumes about the humongous opportunity in Nigeria, and I think that, and the fact that the tech ecosystem can make that impact in Nigeria and make the difference, turn things around.
Okay, that's great to hear. Talking about opportunity, so you mentioned how obviously this shows that there's a lot of opportunity within the sector. So how do we advise others who are keen to get to this or attain unicorn status? So what are the key ingredients of building a unicorn? Do you feel like there's a vague formula? You can just give us some little tips.
Well, I'm from the school of thought that success can be repeated. So there's a method to every success or madness, as they say. So it's understanding clearly. So one of the first and most important things is understanding clearly what problem you want to solve, and I think that that's actually the very first step. Once you're clear on what problem you want to solve, the next thing you need to do is examine what the potential is for that problem in terms of scale. Because if you're going to achieve unicorn status, then you need to have critical mass, and critical mass is very, very important to achieve that. So you need to look at the possibility of solving large scale problems, and then after that you need to build a minimum viable product, which is something you use to test the market to see if it will resonate with the market or not. And once you do that, once you test and you find that this is something that works, then it's important that you need to double down on it, like I said. But there's a lot of support that you also need in that process, because you need capital, you need coaching, you need to connect with the community. So there are lots of things that you need to consider. So there's a process and there's a path to achieving that. But I think it all begins first with understanding what problem you want to solve, and what the scale of that problem is.
Okay, thank you for the tips given to us. I'm sure this will be useful to many. So we've talked about unicorns and how once you attain unicorn status, it's this big thing, exclusive group of people within the industry. But what does it mean beyond that? So once you've gotten there, what does the road look like, especially for OPay? Now that you've gotten to this level of exclusiveness, what is in store? What is beyond? Please tell us more.
Okay, well, so first, I'd like to make it clear that attaining unicorn status is not the end game. Because if that's the end game, then obviously there's no more path. I think the vision for any business needs to be much bigger than just attaining unicorn status. So it's important that you have a bigger vision, and that's solving the problem. And for OPay, financial inclusion is the end game. Is to make sure that we are able to, financially include those who are excluded, who don't have access to financial services, and because access to financial services is the biggest challenge facing Africa today, so that's what we see, and it's still a long path to get there, but we're on track. We're on track.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that brings me on to my next point, which is a hot topic amongst the industry, which is regulatory landscape and how it has the potential to hamper innovation. So we all know firsthand how OPay started its journey in Nigeria as wanting to be a super app. They had a logistics business, which unfortunately was, well, I guess, hampered by regulation. So you've come to the market, you've overcome these issues. How did you overcome this and still come back stronger?
Okay, my thoughts on regulation. So I think regulation is important. Regulation is actually very critical to, sustaining the ecosystem. Otherwise, there'll be chaos. And that's why, as a company, we understand that regulation is important, and we try to do everything to conform or to comply with these things. But it's important to also understand that regulation can be an obstacle to agility. You have to be innovative and creative, and you also need to find partnerships that can help you to surmount those challenges, because no man is an island. So you need to navigate through all of those obstacles and by looking at the market and looking at the various partnerships and connections in the community that can help you surmount those challenges. Like I said, the regulation is important, because otherwise there will be systemic risk to everyone. And we already see what's going on in the market in terms of risk, in terms of fraud. So regulation is good, and so far partnerships have been a core part of what we do to ensure that we surmount all of those challenges. You have to be connected to the ecosystem too. There are people who are licensed to do different things. You're licensed to do something else, and then you work together and collaborate to surmount those challenges. So that's.
Okay, so I noticed that you mentioned in your answer a lot about partnerships and how they've played a pivotal role in how you've overcome or surmounted challenges. I was wondering if, just for the benefit of the audience and people listening, how did you go about fostering those partnerships? Where do you meet? Like, what sorts of partnerships are you talking about? If you could just expand a bit on that point.
The thing is understanding what you have the access or the rights to do. And once you understand that somebody else has, the platform or the platform that you actually need to plug into to actually get there. So for instance, I'll give an example. So you may have a bills payment platform. I don't have a bills payment platform. We can partner together because I have a ton of customers who are on my platform who need to pay bills. So you can come together and find a workable arrangement. You go out to seek the partnership if you want to scale and you also want to continue to build your business. It's important that you find the right partnerships that will get you to that point. So that's just an example. And there are lots of players in the market offering different things. There are super agents. If you take a look at the entire tech ecosystem, there are super agents, there are those who are mobile money operators, there are switches, the processors. So you just need to find the right partners that will get you to your destination.
Okay, thank you for the response. So I guess the takeaway from that is the power of collaboration and the impact it can have on business. So my next question is actually talking about the common path between Nigerian and African unicorns is that they're squarely aimed at the financial technology space. Is there a path to unicorn status beyond fintech? So we focus a lot about fintech, but what are your thoughts on this?
It's a very tricky question, But the thing is, I believe there is a path, but it's also, it's all a community. Like I said initially, the biggest challenge facing Africa is access to financial services. So whatever solution you provide, payment has to be a core part of that particular solution, to be able to address the specific challenge in that sector or segment. So even if you talk about education or insurance or any other agriculture, access to finance is going to be a major obstacle. So you need to find the right the right structure and the right arrangement to be able to make the kind of impact or achieve the kind of status you intend to. So that's what I'm trying to get at, and I don't know if people understand me very clearly. So in Africa the opportunities are there, but I still think for a while payment is going to be, a lot of it is going to still be fintech, because access to financial services is the biggest problem facing Africa. A lot of people are financially excluded. Yeah.
Okay, so the takeaway from this is financial inclusion is just the center of all sectors. So even if you're working in the agri space, insurtech space, you need to make sure that your financial services or payment systems are adequate So I guess we've talked about the making of more unicorns. I'd like to focus a bit about OPay and its journey. So can you basically explain how OPay came about and how it built its foundation in Nigeria? Given that it's an international fintech company that is part of the Oprah Group company. So,
yeah. Okay, well, so in 2017, Oprah, through a special purpose vehicle, OPay, wanted to get into the market. So the route to market was something that they were trying to determine, and at the same time, a company which I was responsible for incubating in a technology group called Telnet at the time was also looking for an investor. The name of that company is Paycom, and when Oprah took a look at the market, they felt that the best route into the market was to invest in Paycom. And that's where the OPay brand came to be. And OPay was launched in Nigeria in 2018, August 2018. So that was the route to market. And in entering the market, there was specific focus, to figure out the best path to scale and do that pretty quickly, like I said, from the very beginning. So we had the mandate and the responsibility to make that happen. And what we did was just, after trying several things, decided that agent banking was going to be the right path to scale pretty quickly, and bang, today, we gained momentum pretty quickly, and right now, I mean, in terms of volume, we're processing over $3 billion a month in transactions, and we have millions and millions of customers already on the platform. And so it was important that we quickly identified and figured out the path to attaining the scale that we needed, which was the mandate that we had.
Okay, thank you. So I noticed you spoke about agent banking, which is a big focus of OPay's business now, but I know that when OPay first entered the market, they had plans to become a super app. So if you could just tell us a bit more about what formed this pivot, how did you arrive here? Yes.
Okay. When we entered the market, when OPay was launched, OPay was focused mainly on payments and facilitating payments, and that was the primary business. In focusing on the super app, we wanted to provide a use case that would resonate with the average man on the street, because that's our core market. Making sure that we onboarded them, and that's where we decided to launch the super app, and then also launch the O-Ride product. But a few months after, I think in early 2020, the Lagos State banned the ride-hailing business, and then also the pandemic hit, so the economics didn't make any more sense. So we decided to double down on our payment business as had been from the very beginning. But so the super app was more for the general mass market, which was very important to providing a use case that resonated with the mass market, and that took us pretty far, because our volumes in terms of transactions actually increased. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, Mr. Akpan, for your insights. Unfortunately, this is the end. We have no more time, but do we have enough time for questions? One question. Does anyone have any questions from the audience for Mr. Akpan or online? Okay, so if there are no further questions at the end, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, Mr. Akpan. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Kemi.
Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, a round of applause for her. Kemi, Dr. Bremer, and Dr. Vincent, who's coming now. I want three of you should please go this way for a photo. Yeah, photo ops. Yeah, thank you, Akpan. Inspirational story. Yeah, we we know about the journey and how far OPay has come. Congrats to you and your team for what you have built.